be a remake of the Charles Dickens classic Great Expectations. Change the storyline, introduce some new players, and you have the cast and plot for the 91 Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Never before has a season promised so much. The old firm of Peter Brock and Larry Perkins has saddle pals once again in a pair of new VN Commodores, and they promise to give Win Percy and the factory team one tough year. And while the Sierra defectors Longhurst and Jones have been struck by a bout of M3 malaria, multi-titleist Dick Johnson and the Nissan GTR duo of Richards and Scaife still believe they have the winning edge. It's Holden versus Ford, Nissan and BMW for the 91 Championship. 7 Sport welcomes you to Melbourne's Sandown Raceway and the opening round of horsepower hostilities.
Good afternoon, Australia. I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to Sandown International Motor Raceway and, of course, the commencement of the 1991 Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, who's going to win today? Everyone says Jim Richards, but I suspect probably the reason that so big a crowd has turned out today is that Peter Brock renews his acquaintance with Holden. How competitive will the Holden be? Well, our own Niels on Wheels is out there to test the Magic V8.
Thanks, Mike. As we all know, touring car racing is really dull, but keeping the competition close is a very difficult juggle for CAMS and the touring car entrance group. This fabulous sound that you're about to hear is the Mobil 1 Racing Peter Brock Commodore. Holden, like each of the major brands, has received some special treatment over summer, so let's go and have a look at exactly who got what from Santa last Christmas.
Last year's champions had everybody worried by the time the Oran Park Grand Final was run. The Nissan GTR crushed the pack, so it's been nobbled for 91. The GTR's vital statistics are very impressive. The high-tech 6-cylinder twin-turbo produces a staggering 620 horsepower, and through its four-wheel drive technology can put it all to the road. To keep the Nissan honest, it's been forced to put on 15 kilograms since last season. The Ford Sierra has lost some supporters this season. The Brock and Longhurst teams have jumped the Sierra ship, but this car can still win races. To address the imbalance between the Sierra and the rest last year, the potent little Ford carried an extra 85 kilos. This season, the weight penalty has been removed. In addition, the car can use a 6-speed gearbox, and with more than 500 horsepower and at just 1,100 kilograms, Ford fans can still look forward to some top results. In the sprint races last year, the ageing VL Holden Commodore didn't make the grade, but in each of the Enduros, the big V8 made its presence felt. For 91, the Holden makes a competitive comeback. The new shape of the VN penetrates the air better than the last car, and the numbers look much better. The new inlet manifold freedoms mean more power, and the once bulky Commodore has slimmed down 75 kilograms to 1,250. Later in the year, around June, a 6-speed gearbox will also be available to Commodore runners. Cast your mind back to 1987, and the car to beat was the JPS BMW M3. The nimble fuel-injected BM was a giant killer. More recently, the car in an evolution form is still winning races overseas, and this season we'll quickly learn the M3 is back in a big way. Using the German rules as a base, the BMW now has more capacity and power, less weight and more rubber. This prompted the return of the factory-backed cars, and on certain tracks, these cars will be hard to beat. It all boils down to different winners at different tracks. The Nissan has great power and traction, but it's heavy. The BMW is light, but it's also light on power. If we analyse each on paper, focusing on power versus weight, the Sierra is still the package, carrying just 2.73 kilograms for every kilowatt of grunt, but it's hard on its rubber. The Nissan carries almost 3 kilograms for every unit of power, but weight and brakes are its weak point. The trusty V8 Holden comes in at slot 3 with 3.22 kilograms per kilowatt. And the new-look BMW doesn't look as strong on paper, but be assured, it's consistent and will wear down the opposition, especially on the tight tracks.
We are just about ready for round one, the 91 Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Let's check out the grid for you. Pole to Jimmy Richards in the Nissan GTR. Sharing the front line with him will be teammate Mark Scaife. Out of position number 3, it's 18 John Bow. From position number 4, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 5, it's Dickie Johnson. Out of position number 6, Win Percy, the first of the Commodores. From 7, it's Colin Bond in the Caltex Sierra. 8, Kevin Waldock, the first of the Privateers. From 9, it's Larry Perkins in the Mobil 1 Commodore. 10 is 05 Peter Brock. From 11, Tony Longhurst in the first of the B&H BMWs. Alan Jones starts out at 12 in car 20. 13.21 Mark Gibbs, the GIO Commodore. From 14.33 Bob Pearson. And rounding out the top 15, Steve Reed in the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore. Stand by for action. Jimmy Richards in the number 1 Nissan GTR and teammate Mark Scaife. The 91 season is racing, and it's Mark Scaife and Win Percy who just bounces out in between the Sierras and looks for third place as they come down to the left hand. A crowd absolutely beside itself as they all go fighting for racing room through turn number 1. Now up towards the M's. And as you can see, it'll be Mark Scaife leading from Jimmy Richards. Next is Dick Johnson, then followed by Win Percy. John Bow, Glenn Seaton is the next one through. And a great start there by Peter Brock in 05 as they come up the back straight. Look at these two Nissan supercars just run away from the fleet.
Yeah, they really are missiles, these Nissans, streaking away up the back straight the first time around. Richards over 0.6 of a second quicker than Johnson in official qualifying. And as you can see, he's already pulling out a gap on this first lap. They are super quick, these Nissans.
Yeah, great start from cars 1 and 2. Jim and Mark getting away cleanly. Good start from Win Percy, who split the Sierras momentarily. Through the S's now. A tricky run onto the main straight. It's Nissan GTR 1-2, the reigning champion in the top spot. Win Percy in 4th position, splitting the 2 Shell Sierras. Then we've got Glenn Seaton. And quite a large gap back to the next group of cars. Richards, Scaife, gap back to Johnson, Percy, Bow, Seaton, a big gap back to Colin Bond, Kevin Waldock, Peter Brock, Tony Longhurst, Larry Perkins and Mark Gibbs.
I guess as we expected, coming down towards the M's again. And you can see Dick Johnson with Win Percy right behind him. Actually, Win has found himself in the middle of a Shell Sierra sandwich at this stage. Glenn Seaton sits just in behind Johnson. And the Peter Jackson Sierra, or Bow I should say, as they make their way up the back straight again. One guy who apparently is having some problem, Peter Brock, who made a good start. He's heading up behind Kevin Waldock, I believe it is. Was position 9. It has dropped a position or 2 there. Keep an eye today on the Benson & Hedges BMWs, Tony Longhurst and Alan Jones. Very warm day here at Sandown. If some of these heavier cars feel the pinch in the tyre department, I think we could expect to see the BMs in maybe the last 15 or 16 laps of this race.
Yeah, well, these BMs and the Mobil Commodores run together for the early part of the race, at least. They are fairly close in qualifying times.
Haven't had a great deal of time for development as John Bow slips inside team leader Dick Johnson. As you can see, Glenn Seaton has been able to get by Win Percy. We'll see whether or not Glenn can haul in the 2 Shell cars.
Yeah, Glenn's been very busy over the summer period, particularly with engine development with his father who builds the engine both seat. And he's pretty confident he's getting somewhere up around the sort of horsepower Dick Johnson's developing in the Shell cars. And if that's the case, we should see Glenn climbing onto the back of these ones in a few laps' time.
Thanks to Race Hands and Dunlop, we'll have a closer look for you.
Dick will be hoping that'll snap off, or the marshals won't like that one. Comes past a couple of times.
Well, it's not going to do anything, but you're right. Aerodynamically, you wouldn't know. Minuscule, perhaps, but it's been enough for John Bow, whatever the problem is that Dick is having at the moment for Bow to get away.
And while Bow's been going away, Seaton slowly climbing onto the back of Johnson, so Johnson may have a problem here.
But we've got a problem for Glenn Seaton, just almost at the finishing line. A rear end problem by the look of it. Seaton is going to stop right on the finishing line, so Glenn Seaton's race is well and truly over.
This is Alan Jones, 1980 World Formula 1 champion, driving the BMW M3 for the first time.
Oh, look at the move down here by AJ.
I think AJ's just getting a little bit of practice in for when the touring car circus gets to some of the tighter tracks, and that's when the BM will really come into its own.
Looks like the guy in the BMW is keeping you fairly busy, Pete.
Yeah, I've sort of, my brakes are a little bit going, and the right-hand rear tyre is saying, thank you very much, I've done enough Sunday driving at the stage, so I'm trying to understeer it through this corner, for instance, to take the weight off it, but I can look in the mirror there, and Tony is, here he goes. Let him go, because I was holding him up. But I changed back to first there in anticipation as soon as he did that. So for the viewers there, I don't normally use first gear on that corner, but at the moment I'm in a bit of a limp home mode, unfortunately. I'm still looking pretty good. I think the car's very nice, but the temperature is absolutely beyond the car's capability of getting rid of it.
Oh, we thought it was just you young, impetuous blokes are hard on cars.
Yeah, but you know what, Crompton?
What?
I'm actually in a racing car.
You got one up on me. That's it, I'm not talking anymore. See you later.
Okay, mate.
So 2 Nissans, 2 Sierras and a Holden making the top 5. And then Win Percy with about the length of the back straight on Tony Longhurst, who's now past Colin Bond.
So as they head up towards the bridge, watch at the speed here. Past Tony Longhurst on the outside goes Jimmy Richards. Caught that on our Nissan race cam.
But if there was room, then the BMW would monster the Nissan here. And
Yes, what's
so.
this?
There is room. Cop that, Richo.
Just to have some fun.
Well, I understand that team manager Frank Gardner's in the pits at the moment. Frank, Neil Crompton here. Your boy's doing a great job.
Yeah, they're a great little car, and young Tony's enjoying himself. We usually start at the front and work slowly backwards, but today we've started at the back and worked slowly forward, so it's a bit of a change.
Coming up now in the second of the Mobile VN Commodores, car number 11, sitting in behind Kevin Waldock as they go through there. Larry, the man responsible for the preparation of the 2 Mobile cars. Perkins now running 14th in the field, so it hasn't been the best of days for Larry and Peter. However, they have done a great job in getting 2 brand spanking new cars up and running, and they will get quicker and become more competitive as the Touring Car Championship continues.
Hello.
Oh, problems for Tony Longhurst, car number 25.
And what's going on here?
He's got a flat tyre, has he?
He looks to be sitting down on one side, though.
Yeah, that's what I thought of.
And what a shame. We were just saying to Frank Gardner how great the cars were going. There's Jonesy. He's taken Longhurst, but Longhurst definitely in trouble here.
Coming out of the last turn, the pits are on the right-hand side. The throttle is all the way to the floor, and Jimmy Richards coming down to take the checkered flag. So the ex-Kiwi will lead them across the line. Richards 1, Scaife 2, a 1-2 for Nissan in the opening round hostilities in the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Splendid performance, power performance from these 2. Rest of the field coming through now to finish off the race. Win Percy in car number 16, and Jim stopping to pick up the checkered flag. He certainly earned the victory here today at Sandown International Raceway.
What a crush. Jim Richards and the awesome Nissan GTR absolutely decimating the field. Richo, congratulations. That was a fabulous way to start the new season. Reigning champion, you've done the business.
Well, yeah, it was a matter of sort of getting out in front and so on, trying to hold a gap over the rest of the field. We sort of chose a little bit softer tyre than we probably should have, and so we had to work it hard at the start and then drive it nice and easy towards the end, but it paid off.
No problems with the car?
No, car was perfect, no problem.
Welcome to Simmons Plains in round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, the weatherman has delivered a bonus here today for spectators. Gone are yesterday's showers, and we have a fine and mild afternoon with a top temperature of 21 degrees. Well, the Simmons Plains circuit is located 30 k's south of Launceston. It measures 2.41 kilometres and is very fast, but also very hard on brakes. Well, Australian champion Jim Richards has pole for today's event. But not everything has come up roses for Team Nissan overnight. And with the latest on that, we say good afternoon to Neil Crompton.
Yes, Mike, a difficult time for at least one of the Nissans yesterday. Mark Scaife speared off at the end of the back straight, leapt into the mud. There were bits flying everywhere. What happened?
Mate, all I did is I turned into the big fast right-hander down the back straight, and the left-hand front disc brake rotor exploded. Cut the wheel in half, sent the tyre flat and speared off down through the paddock. So it's a pretty wild ride.
Here's how the top 10 lines up today. Jim Richards in the Nissan GTR pole position and starting alongside Win Percy in the Holden Racing Commodore. From 3, it's 30, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. 4, 17, Dick Johnson, the Shell Sierra. From 5, Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra. Out of position number 605, Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. From 7, it's 18, John Bowe in the second Shell car. From position 8, number 11, Larry Perkins, the second of the Mobile Commodores. From 9, 28, Kevin Waldock, and rounding out the 10, Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges BMW M3. There's Jimmy Richards with Win Percy in the new VN Holden Commodore alongside. And starting position number 13, dead last in the field today, Mark Scaife, who came to grief yesterday. Watch the Nissan, it gets off. Win Percy tries to go with it on the inside. And also a great start from Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra as they come beneath the Dunlop Bridge. And Richards away very smartly indeed. And I think it was Dick Johnson who got the best start of them all, and he's right behind the Nissan as they go up into the hairpin. Now it'll be Richards trying to stretch it now down through the sweeper section of the racetrack as they come down here. Dickie Johnson running in second. Win Percy back in third. Fourth is Glenn Seaton, then Colin Bond. And it looks like Peter Brock also dropping out of the draft as they come tearing down the back straight here into the left-hander at Coca-Cola corner. And just look at Dick Johnson doing a good job staying in touch with the Nissan.
Tremendous start from Richards, as expected with the four-wheel drive car, but Dick Johnson came from nowhere. Blitzed Win Percy off the line, who made an initially good jump, but then slowed a little as he tried to get it away. And this is Dunlop Racecam, the business end of the Ford Sierra, chasing the Nissan GTR, end of one lap. Jim Richards leads from Dick Johnson, Win Percy in third position in the HRT Commodore, then Glenn Seaton in fourth, and Johnson up on the outside, challenging the Nissan at the hairpin.
Now he'll try and pull it back on the inside, get the run out of the turn. Richards out of there smartly. Johnson grabs another gear as we take Dunlop Racecam, working down to the right-hand kink in the sweeper here at Symmons Plains. They're starting to run away just a little from the field. Richards, Johnson, that is the order. Then Win Percy under siege from Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Next is John Bowe, followed by Colin Bond. Coca-Cola corner, Richards, the pole man in the Nissan GTR. Scaife up to 8th position after starting out of 13. He still has a lot of traffic to pass, because Scaife is trying to find a way past John Bowe, and Bowe was so incredibly fast here yesterday in the second session. It was really a disappointment to him that he didn't wind up with second quick time yesterday. Beneath the Dunlop Bridge, let's see whether Scaife can pull it this time in sheer acceleration. Bowe just creases the guardrail using the wide exit to that turn. No, he can't. He's caught in behind this Sierra. Oh, Glenn Seaton getting the short back and sides. Bowe spins it.
Looped it. Deary me.
Well, that's taken the pressure off Win Percy, who, as Mark pointed out earlier on, has certainly got the bit between his teeth this weekend. Starting off the front row in the Holden Commodore, Bowe is restarted underway again, a little damage to the front left, and now Scaife has passed Seaton, and Win Percy having skipped away just a little bit.
Mark Scaife's teammate Jim Richards, according to our lap charts, has just broken the lap record. He's just done a 56.84, which cleans up Alan Jones' standing record of 56.96 in the Sierra last year.
Here's Scaife looking once again. Again, the Commodore has the edge into the turn. The Nissan has the edge coming out, but also the real estate is being soaked up by the Commodore, so it's not allowing Mark to get his car into the position he wants. He can't use the road on the exit that he'd like to, so that means he's making a slower exit.
Look at this.
The two of them are very close at the hairpin. Percy's in the box seat. Scaife having to go the hard way round. Can he switch back to the inside? Look at the Nissan, the way it grabs the road. Now he gets into position. If he can hold this when they get down to the other end, it'll be looking good. This is a tremendous scrap.
This must be very heartening for the HRT boys. This Commodore's virtually a brand new car, and it's running head-to-head with the Nissan for a few laps. This augurs well for the future.
This is door-to-door stuff too.
Fantastic racing.
There's not much Win can do about it, because Scaife has been able to put the right number on him. And what we were saying earlier about the car being able to put its power down out of the turns, you'll never see better evidence of it than that pass on Win Percy. As Neil said, Win was using a little bit of the real estate and then some, driving defensively. So, the order of the race, Jim Richards leading. Dickie Johnson running in second spot, and now the second of the Nissan GTRs up to third with Mark Scaife. Pretty heady stuff this, side by side through the sweeper. And Bow making a big run down the outside here. Has he got him? Yes, he has. We take our race cam to see John Bow. Takes Peter Brock. So Bow now advances to 7th in the pack after dropping back to 12th position in the field. Great drive from John Bow. Brock, in the meantime, continues on in the 05 car, and he's got Larry Perkins right behind him. Then the first of the Benson and Hedges cars. Is our race leader, Jimmy Richards.
Peter, just watching your footwork here, it's very interesting at the end. We can see the heel and toe and a bit of double to clutching down to first. Just explain your way around the circuit for us.
Okay, first gear here, half throttle now. Now I can flatten it. I'm in second gear. I'm going to rev limit to 7/8. Up to 4th now. I use all the road here to save the tyres. And you can see I'll get across the apex here. We're doing about 240 k's at the moment. Brakes on now. Back to second now. I'm trying to use everything I can to stop. Well, the brakes are very good, but I'm trying to sort of maintain a bit of brakes towards the end of the race because, boy, it's the hardest race I've seen. Third gear around there. Up to here, brakes on, back to second, just let it float down, keep it straight, cross the apex, and don't oversteer here, which I'm trying very hard not to. And in second gear, third gear up to here, fourth, and a little bit of fifth about now, and then put the brakes on and just hope we've got them all.
The second spot is about to be debated between Dickie Johnson and Mark Scaife. Scaife, of course, has made a huge run in the last couple of laps. And here he is closing on Dick Johnson as they come up to the hairpin. Been a tremendous performance from the young Central Coast driver after going off yesterday in what could have been an awful accident. Nissan team are back. They've rebuilt the car, started off the back. Here's second place. Scaife working down the outside of Dickie Johnson. The GTR goes through and takes second place away from Dick Johnson, who fights to keep the inside running for the next turn. Can he do it? Or will he let the GTR go? No, he'll fight for it probably. Side by side out of this turn, but the Nissan will get the power on much quicker. Came across the front of Dick as well.
Good scrap here with Colin Bond in the Caltex Ford Sierra being attacked by the BMW. Aren't they fabulous under brakes? Tony Longhurst goes through, and Longhurst doing again to the field what he did at Sandown, and that's just running consistently and picking them off one by one as they start to smoulder. Gee, wind's closed right up now on Johnson, who's probably starting to find himself running a little thin on rubber. The difficult thing with the Sierra is the tyres on the car are so narrow, and the car has so much horsepower, and there's a lot of real stop-and-go corners on this track which promote wheel spin on the exit, and the tyres do not like that as Dick locks up the rears and spins.
Yeah.
Locked up his rear brakes, heading into the hairpin, and backs around. He'll be cursing and swearing. Win Percy skates through to third place as Dick tries to do 100 mile an hour backwards.
Well, he's going to try and whip it around and then catch it again and get going.
Oh.
Well, if he had tyre problems before, I think he's...
That cooled him down.
I'll be happy when it's all over, Mike. It's been a pretty heavy weekend with Mark having an off yesterday in the car. But it's going well now and hope it keeps going that way.
And gee, got problems with Percy.
Yeah, just took third place, and here he is slowing down on the back straight.
We've now got Glenn Seaton molesting Dick Johnson.
Johnson's going for tyres.
Yep.
So Seaton to third, Johnson to the pits for some rubber. Percy stranded past the hairpin, and a real mixed bag. We've got Nissan's clearing out from the pack.
Yep. Order is Richards over Scaife. Glenn Seaton now moving into third, and that would probably move Tony Longhurst up into fourth.
There you go, the BMs, they're doing it again.
Yep, he's put on a good show today when Percy got the Holden up on the front row. Long walk back here at Simmons Plains to the pits.
So the Shell car splits the two mobile entries, and this is the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th. So the order, Jim Richards the leader from Mark Scaife. Glenn Seaton is in third, then Longhurst, Bond, and Dick Johnson passes Peter Brock to now move up into 5th. Brock is 6th, Perkins is 7th. Behind Perkins, Alan Jones 9th, Kevin Warlock 10th, John Bow coming back out of the pits and rejoining the fray. Then Mark Gibbs with Win Percy having retired, and there's the stricken car number 16 car off to the side of the road. coming up to 49 minutes of racing, so we're getting very close to checkered flag time.
We'll either have the checkered flag. These are timed races, 50-minute races. Depends how close they are to the 50-minute mark. This will either be the last corner or they'll have one more lap to go after this. Checkered flag time, we believe. 1-2 at Symmons Plains for the Nissan GTR team as they take first and second in round number 2. A fantastic 1-2 as well, and I think all credit must go to Freddie Gibson, certainly to Mark Scaife today after the problems of yesterday, to come off the back of the field, dispense with the Sierras and then finish on the tail of his team leader Jim Richards in the run to the flag. And also great to see Glenn Seaton picking up a major placing third. That'll put him on the rostrum here today for the Peter Jackson team. Equally a fine performance from Tony Longhurst finishing in 4th, and Dick Johnson will show in the 5th spot.
Similar tracks really, the first 2 rounds, Sandown and Symmons, but from here on in, tight and twisty stuff, the BMs will be looking good.
They will, as you know, as Tony was sort of keeping up with me towards the end, and that wasn't because I was letting him, that was because our car had done the job and the tyres were getting a bit, a bit second hand, and so come the shorter tracks, they're going to be real good.
Welcome to Perth's Wanneroo Park Raceway and round 3 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship, a series that has been dominated totally by Jim Richards, Mark Scaife and Nissan in particular. Well, to you Holden, Ford and BMW devotees hoping for something just a little different here today, your prayers have been answered. 4 times Australian champ Dick Johnson has pole position in the Ford Cosworth, and sharing the front row with him, Holden's Win Percy. What a race it promises to be. Not the happiest of days for Nissan yesterday. Some violent understeer problems. Here was Jimmy Richards in the morning session going straight ahead, trying to pull the car up. Then in the later session in the afternoon, Mark Scaife, talk about understeer and oversteer, Mark took it down to the sand trap in the bottom turn. Then this morning, of course, John Bowe blowing a turbo. A lot of work for the Dick Johnson team with their second car. It will start from the back of the field today. Dick off the front and John Bowe starting off the back line in company with Larry Perkins. But boy, really did cause a bushfire alert. We're ready to go racing round number 3 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Ford's Dick Johnson, Holden's Win Percy are about to go at it. And they're racing. Johnson, a beautiful start, and Mark Scaife down the outside in the Nissan. Jimmy Richards trying to get up there. Tony Longhurst wasn't on the inside, but it'll be Johnson into the first turn, and maybe that's Scaife up into second. Very, very tight running in the turn as they work their way up towards the S's, and it's Johnson. Mark Scaife up smartly, Win Percy, then Jimmy Richards. So Johnson's plan in this race is to get away from the pack and to do a pit stop on lap number 20. Running on softer compound tyres, he hopes he can spring a surprise on the Sierra set. And again, it's good afternoon to Neil Crompton, to Mark Osler.
But Johnson here sprinting away, car 17. This is the plan, but look at Scaife, a fantastic start off the second row of the grid. Launched into second position, he's going to push Johnson hard, but look at Percy, bogged down a little bit on the start as well, but he's right up there in third as they head down to the pit straight.
There's Seaton coming down again, keeping the pressure on Tony Longhurst. There's Peter Brock, the 05 Mobil VN Commodore. We take Jim Richards' Nissan race cam, and we've also got a race cam riding with Peter Brock here today, so we believe we've got the front half of the field covered fairly well. Here Brocky doing a bit of heavy breathing there as he works the Commodore fairly hard, trying to stay in touch here with Glenn Seaton. Johnson still opening that gap just a little. Mark Scaife unable to run away from the clutches of Win Percy.
Fred Gibson said this morning that they're very worried. They've been to Lakeside and tested, and the BMW is well and truly their match there. And I still think that we're going to see something pretty exciting from that little yellow car in the background there in the coming 40 minutes.
As he's getting a little closer to the tail of Jim Richards. Richards now sitting and making life fairly uncomfortable for one Win Percy as we take Nissan race car coming up through the S's, heading to the left-hander of the Shell Sweeper. Johnson still, the gap looks about the same visually. There's not too much in it. But I think Jim is getting all over the tail now of Win Percy. May even dive to the inside here on the entrance to Cold Corner. Fairly close and just finds a little opening. Not much in it, let me tell you, but a beautiful pass there from Jimmy Richards.
Look at Longhurst.
And Longhurst is in this. And he comes ranging up on the outside. The V8's got a bit too much grunt to the top of the hill.
Gee, this is a pretty good
under brakes.
Here he comes. Darts straight down the inside.
Wynne was able to cover the ground at the very last minute, but the BMW's braking performance is outstanding. Dick Johnson, you're working pretty hard at the wheel there as we take Dunlop race cam. Is the strategy going to work?
Oh, God only knows, mate.
Has
It's got more pops than a lollipop shop at the moment, but it's just a gamble, Mike. We're just going to see how it pans out in the end.
What did you hope to have over the two Nissans when you pull in for your pit stop?
Well, the way this thing's going at the moment, I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah. You have got to do a pit stop, Dick. There's no way you can go all the way.
No, mate, she's just sort of, you do this to me, Mike. I don't know how you do it.
I haven't.
Yeah, you have.
Oh, mate, I've given you the kiss of death again. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right. It's just the way it is. Just the way it is, pal.
Well, you can see the advantage of race cam. No sooner talking to Dick Johnson and the engine's gone pop. Dick has gone to the pits. His chance of winning round 3 today have gone completely, and we now have a Nissan 1-2 set up with, of course, Wynne Percy chasing hard in the Holden number 16 VN Commodore. And we all suggest that maybe Tony Longhurst could be the sleeper in this race a little later on as he wears them down. And this dice continues between Brocky and Alan Jones. Jones going down on the inside to take that spot away.
Well, Peter's giving Alan heaps of room there. He probably realises that he's fighting a losing battle under brakes, but he's got what it takes in a straight line. Peter, there's been real difficulty trying to get this car to balance the way you want it to. You're making any progress?
I sort of want to Bondi a bit here, but I can't pressure him enough at the moment because, for instance, where I'm right now, if I accelerate too hard, the left-hand rear is just wants to skate out. So, hello?
That doesn't sound too
Hello,
good.
we've just lost some power.
We'll let you go back to work. Well, that's Peter was looking across at the switching in the middle of the car, and where he's got a couple of alternative fuel pumps, and the thing just started to snatch and carry on. It's making a dreadful noise as it goes past our commentary point. So the first reaction for him to do then was to shut down the existing pump and switch another on. But maybe he's got more problems than just fuel pumps.
I'm glad we haven't got 10 race cams today. I think we've put the muckers on just about everyone so far that we talked to.
So the Nissans are still maintaining their consistency, and we've still got Jim Richards hard on the heels of Mark. But boy, Wynne is fighting one heck of a battle here at the moment with Tony, who's monstering him left, right and centre in all the spots that you'd predict the BMW would be good. And then this happens, the 520 odd horsepower of the Holden leap away from the BMW in a straight line, and then back comes Tony again under brakes, and boy doesn't he push it hard. Oh, and Percy runs wide.
How quick was that? Down the inside, look for Percy to come fighting back, but he won't get Longhurst before the next right-hander. That now pole vaults Tony Longhurst up into third behind the two Nissans, Scaife and Jimmy Richards. And that happened ever so quickly.
Sorry to interrupt, Mike. I got a feeling that Wynne's got a flat tyre or something of that nature. The car just looked very unstable when we could see that shot in the cockpit a few minutes ago. And wouldn't surprise me at all if Wynne had to make a pit stop.
Standing with me is Dick Johnson. And Dick, we seem to put the race cam kiss of death on you again. What happened to the 17 car?
Well, everything was going to plan there early in the race, and then the old engine's a bit tired. It really should have been changed before this race, but we had a couple of problems earlier in the week and we ran out of engine, so it ran a bit too long, and towards the end it just started getting worse and worse, and rather than just throw away $30,000, I thought I'd stop.
Okay, Dick Johnson, thanks very much. Not a good weekend for the Shell team, Mike.
No, certainly not, Mark, and we've noticed Wynne Percy come in. You might like to check that situation out. We thought he may have had a deflating tyre on the Holden in the last lap, and that's the reason he's in. But you can check that out for us as we follow the two Nissan GTRs.
It was very much a guesstimation on my part. You shouldn't speculate, I suppose, but there was certainly a real instability in the car, and it just...
he got him so quickly as well.
Yeah, the thing just wobbled and lurched, so the team are having a look under there at the moment. Not a lot of urgency, though, and I think Wynne's got his helmet off, so it's game, set and match for Holden race team. And Larry Perkins has also come into the pits. Gee, you wouldn't want to be in a Holden today.
The order at this stage is still Nissan 1-2 with Tony Longhurst back in third, and I would think that Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Sierra would be fourth, and probably Alan Jones up into fifth spot.
And Brock's also decided to give the game away in the 0-5 car. It's astonishing because the strength of the Holden has always been unbelievable reliability, and suddenly this weekend, for no apparent reason, these cars are giving trouble. I think Larry's stop was merely for tyres, so the number 11 Mobil car continues.
There certainly aren't any team orders as to who runs first and second. They race for it. And Jim was thinking about maybe a run down the inside. But the bottom turn coming up, last turn now as they come out, headed towards the checkered flag and chalk up another 1-2 to Nissan. This time it's Mark Scaife who takes the victory. Second place will go to Jimmy Richards. And back about 12 or 14 seconds behind them, Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges BMW will be next in to pick up third place. Fourth will go to Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra, and fifth to Alan Jones in the number 20 B&H car.
And the winner, the first time he's won an Australian Touring Car Championship round. Fabulous drive, Mark. Everybody was very pleased for you. You must be thrilled.
Thanks, Crumbo. Yeah, it was very good. I'd just like to thank Nissan for their efforts, because the car doesn't suit the circuit overly well, and the boys worked very, very hard through the week to make it a good package, and the car was fantastic.
Mark Scaife, the winner of this third round, as I say, a tremendous effort on everybody's part.
Welcome to Seven's coverage of the fourth round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championships from Lakeside. You know, this race at this place always produces something a little different, and today should be no exception. Jimmy Richards has pole position over Tony Longhurst BMW, but the split is a mere 25/100ths of a second. It promises to be quite a race. Might be timely to check out the grid now, the top 10 for you. Jim Richards on pole in the Nissan with a 53.43. Tony Longhurst a little unlucky yesterday, a 53.68. Mark Scaife in the second of the Nissans out of position number 3, and Win Percy the first of the Holdens from 4. Glenn Seaton from 5 in the Peter Jackson Sierra. John Bow in the Shell Sierra from 6. From 7 it's Alan Jones in the second of the B&H Bimmers. From 8.05 Peter Brock in the Mobil Commodore. From 9.28 Kevin Waldock. Out of 11 out of 10 I should say, car number 11 Larry Perkins. There's your top 10. And Dick Johnson not on the top 10 here this afternoon, but he'll be starting 2 back from there, from position number 12. And a lot of work to do this afternoon for Dick Johnson. So welcome back Gary Wilkinson and Neil Crompton. Expect Longhurst to lose out in the drag to the first turn, the right-hander at the carousel. We're about 5 seconds away from round 4 of the Shell Championship, coming to you from Lakeside Raceway in Queensland. Watch the Nissans off the line. Off. Richards, goodbye everyone. And look at Win Percy, an absolutely sensational start. He'll pick up probably fourth. I think Glenn Seaton will nobble him and get third as they go down to the carousel for the first time, but it'll be a Nissan 1-2. Richards leading from Scaife, then a brilliant start by Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson, who gets a drop kick straight from Win Percy from behind. He'll come in about the middle of the field behind Peter Brock. As Steve Reed goes through and the 2 Nissans disappear, but right behind the Nissan, boy, have we got one heck of a race going.
What a shame for Glenn Seaton. He made a blinding start there, but he suffered some damage too in running off the circuit, some panelling hanging off the side of the cupboard. Look at those Nissans go up front, 1-2. What a familiar sight that's becoming.
Best start of the race. What about Dick Johnson? Out of 12, and he's sitting right in here behind Tony Longhurst. John Bauer, brilliant start also in car number 18. So the 2 Dick Johnson cars on the move, so too Peter Brock.
Major change in suspension overnight for Dick Johnson and a new engine.
It's also a terrific start from Win Percy in third position. He's cleared himself away from that pack where you're likely to do some damage or scrub your tyres up trying too hard. He can concentrate now on the Nissans as we focus on this scrap between John Bow and Tony Longhurst. And Dunlop Racecam shows how hard Dick Johnson's working at the moment as he goes beneath the Dunlop Bridge. In the trickiest part of the Lakeside complex, the cars actually leap up here onto 2 wheels, then through the left-hander at Hungary. Look at Longhurst on the inside of Bow, moves through. The nimble BMW is definitely the threat this weekend.
Yes, I don't think there was any doubt that Longhurst would always lose the run to the first turn out of sheer horsepower, and the Nissans being so great off the starting line. But if Tony can put it all together, one lap after another, for probably about 54 circuits here this afternoon, he could be right up there at the checkered flag.
Also a great improvement this weekend from the Mobil 1 racing team, Peter Brock and Larry Perkins. They've found some speed from those cars, and you'll notice that Brock's right in behind Johnson at the moment. the mobile cars are actually running slightly harder tyres than the Holden Racing Team entry. It'll be interesting to see which of the strategies works out in this race, where we're expecting to see some pit stops. In fact, the top three in last year's race all did the same. Look at Longhurst, a big rush down the inside. Percy locks a brake, one small mistake and bang.
Yes, no chance for Wynn to recover there.
Notice also Colin Bond there in the Caltex entry. Remember, he was last year's race winner. He was quiet all week, took it very sensibly, and all of a sudden was leading the race and confounded all the heroes.
Yes, and he'll be adopting the same strategy again here today, running the hardest compound tyres that he can lay his hands on, and he'll just stooge around out there all day and wait for the rest of them to fall over. At least that's what he'll be hoping.
He's got Alan Jones tucked in behind him, so the order at the moment is still Jim Richards from Mark Skaife. In third place, Tony Longhurst. Fourth, we've got... And listen to this car of Brock's roar on the race cam. It's distracted me from whatever it was I was saying. Good pictures.
Sounds like a proper race car.
Yes, anyway, Wynn Percy, I think, is fourth, is what I was going to say. Then John Bowe in fifth, and then Peter Brock in sixth.
Look at Percy and Johnson. Johnson on soft compound rubber. Percy, as I understand it, on fairly hard tyres going down. So he's been able to outrun Johnson to the carousel again.
Longhurst is 3.2 seconds behind Jim Richards now, so as Jim threaded through traffic, he was able to make some ground. One of the problems with the BMW is that if someone takes your line away from you or upsets you in any way, it's a hard car to spool back up the speed. As Wynn Percy now waves Dick Johnson by, probably realising that he's holding him up. So with the Nissan, which is quite a torquey car and the benefit of the turbo, you can afford to pull offline occasionally and get into positions that you wouldn't normally get into and drive away. With the BM, it's a car that you've got to drive 11 tenths.
Yeah, you've got to keep the momentum going.
Well, here they come down the start-finishing straight, and he's still doing it, Longhurst. It's not going to happen in the next 2 laps.
Oh, he's got the gap down to 2.4 seconds, so we have got a race.
Dick Johnson slams into pit lane. The air jacks are in. They quickly drilled through. They said they could do this in about 15 seconds. The 24s had their racing life for the first few laps. I was talking to the tyre technicians. I said the track temperature is down about 7 degrees on yesterday, but the wear rate still seems to be fairly high on Johnson's car.
Thank you, Mark. Good call there as Dick Johnson comes bounding out of the pit area. And he's about to have a lap put on him by the front-running Nissans.
I put the clock on Johnson as he came into the actual pit paddock area or pit lane area from where he exited, and it was 30.75 seconds. So that's a more realistic timing of how long it takes. Just changing wheels and tyres is not necessarily what it's all about. You've got to get in and out, and that's what costs the time.
Every second in here, in a sprint race, they can see the results going down the curve, so they're going as fast as they can. All Jack's clear, Percy out.
Peter, I was just saying, you're working to try and catch John Bowe. What can you do about him?
Unfortunately, I'm down a bit on horsepower, but I'm just conserving at the moment. I've got a bit of an iron Glen seat behind me, but I could just have to concentrate on just getting a few clean laps together and give the car a bit of a respite, because there's no point in beating it around if I can't pass Bowie.
Peter, how are the tyres holding up? You decided to go for some fairly hard stuff.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
A little bit of understeer there. You see those going by. We might let Peter go back to work, and we'll chat to him after. You'll come and hammer me after this now.
He sure will. Looks like the Dulux Auto Colour Commodore there on the infield. I'm not going to talk to him. I put the muckers on everyone 2 weeks ago. Johnson stopped, and when I was talking to Brock, he stopped.
And when Brock talks to Crompton, he'll stop.
Oh, the problem for Terry Finnegan, the Foodtown Commodore. Got just a little tailie off the top of the Motorcraft hill. Around sideways, able to pick it back up, so the Foodtown Commodore continues with Terry Finnegan at the wheel. We take the Nissan race cam, sits on top of Mark Skaife's GTR. He comes on to the home straight here at Lakeside. Great overview of the circuit. To the left-hand peak, now down the inside. The white Commodore, and there's his team partner Jimmy Richards just up ahead.
I think you'll find the race will slow down towards the end.
You're hoping?
Well, you better believe it. Otherwise I've wasted my time. I would have been better off having a beer, eh?
Coming down for the approach shot to Hungary corner.
In fact, the 4 cars, Bow, Seaton, Brock, Jones, are separated by very, very little. And there goes Jonesy through on the inside. That tyre squealing that you could hear was Brock's, obviously.
But Jones all the time is closing. Now here's Seaton. There, John, get on with it, he said.
Give him a nudge there and knock a bit of body work off the back of John Bow's car.
Glenn says that's fair. He copped one in the first corner. Oh, and he's rubbing a tyre too, so that's going to really add to the woes. And now here comes Glenn Seaton, again down.
56.1 on that last lap for the guys, so they've drifted away by about 2 seconds from their earlier qualifying, very obviously. I'm surprised the times are still that good. This damage on the right rear of Bow's car is not good news for the
Jones, look at him. Oh, gee, he had a big go there.
Certainly has. Now that's going to keep Glenn busy here for a moment or two. As they come screaming beneath the Dunlop Bridge, they head downhill to the left-hander at Hungary Corner. Watch Jones on the inside. Here he is, nibbling away here in the Little Bimmer. Jones would be just thoroughly enjoying all of this. He'd prefer to be up the top end of the field, giving them a hammering.
Step out of the pits.
Nissan race cam in Mark Scaife's car. He's in second spot. Jim Richards not in view at this moment. There he is, just disappearing in the distance. Still leading the race, Scaife in second. Tony Longhurst running third.
Here goes Jimbo. Going to give it one hell of a try. Goodbye. Now he's got to try and get the anchors on and try and hold Jonesy out. Jonesy is going to try and go around the outside, is he?
Yeah, try and snooker Seaton behind Waldock. That's what he'll try and do. No, he's run out of road.
The big drama for this poor guy is that the Nissan makes about its first 4 seconds in the first 300 yards. They're so astonishing off the line with the benefit of four-wheel drive. It's very hard in any form of motor racing to give an immediate gap to a competitor and then get it back, particularly if you're on a reasonably equal standing in terms of lap speed.
It's pretty close. Could be the last corner coming up as they come out, heading down towards the start-finishing line. Checkered flag is out, and across the line they go. Coming home to beat teammate Mark Scaife in the number 2 Nissan for second. Third going to Tony Longhurst. Fourth to Glenn Seaton, and should be fifth to Alan Jones.
We knew that the BMWs were going to be hard to beat, and Jimmy drove fantastically well. We tortured each other for the whole distance.
I looked at my stopwatch, and I don't know whether I've got a happy trigger figure, but I saw heaps of low 54s. Was that right?
Well, I think it was, but the sun's so bad you couldn't see it anyway. All I saw was him getting away from me, and I was trying to catch.
All right, and to the winner, Jim Richards. Well done, Jimmy. Everybody was thrilled to see another fine win from you. You must be pleased.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, for sure. You know, Mark's a hard guy to have behind you, I can tell you. I think I'd rather have Tony.
Welcome to wonderful Winton in northeastern Victoria, race 5 of the 9-round Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, not a lot has changed. Nissan's GTR domination of pole position has continued. Jim Richards has pole position here today, sharing the front row with him, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From position number 3, Holden fans take hope it's Win Percy from forward, Dickie Johnson in the Shell Sierra. And from position number 5, Mark Scaife in the second Nissan GTR. Dickie Johnson 10 seconds away from the action at Winton Motor Raceway at Benalla. Racing Richards goes a look at Scaife on the dirt. Trying to get a hold of it and pick up Seaton before the first turn, but he's muscled into third place. Percy goes back to 4th, 5th is Bond. And Dick Johnson has missed out terribly there. In fact, John Bow will probably pick up a point as they stream out of here going up towards the sweeper with Jimmy Richards in front. Settling into second, and a great second too, is Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Then comes Mark Scaife, who had all sorts of problems yesterday in qualifying. I don't know whether the stewards will have something to say about using the grass verge getting off the line. And Johnson, who started in the second row, was actually muscled out before they made it to the first turn.
Yes, Bond, Bow and Johnson all had brake lock-ups at the end of the pit straight the first time, and it looked like there may have been some contact, but Scaife's start was unbelievable. He just went straight to the dirt and did some rallycross. Up to third place now, so he's clear of Win Percy. Richards the leader at the end of lap number 1 from Seaton. Then it's Scaife in position 3, Percy in 4, then Bond, Bow, Johnson, followed then by Alan Jones, Tony Longhurst, Larry Perkins, Peter Brock, Finnegan and Ashby.
The
The usual rocket start from Richards GTR. Dick Johnson joked yesterday the only way Seaton will beat him off the line is if he turned hard right when the light went green. That's about the only way he'd do it.
The restart that Neil called for off the starting line. Let's turn right, get out on the loose stuff and run. And that's exactly what happened for Mark Skaife. I think that was a planned move, but he sits in behind Glenn Seaton's Peter Jackson Sierra. Tries to take advantage of that into the turn, but Seaton closed the door on him, and that's the way they're still running on the road at the moment.
That four-wheel drive's handy.
The Leyland brothers would have been proud of him.
Here we take our 7 Sport race cam and Peter Brock's Mobil 1 Commodore, the right-hander past the start-finishing line, the downhill run to the tightening right-hander here as he sits behind Tony Longhurst. Just ahead of Longhurst is Alan Jones, Dick Johnson, and leading that pack is John Bow and the number 18 Shell Sierra.
Interesting tyre war exists here. We've got Richards on Yokohama, Cito running Bridgestone. Then we've got Mark Skaife in 3rd position, also Yokohama, and Win Percy 4th on Dunlop, and all producing pretty even performance in this early stage of the race with only coming up to 12 minutes down.
This is all getting serious
Skaife's got
as
him.
Mark Skaife up on the inside of Glenn Seaton takes over 2nd spot. Nissan's 1-2. Glenn Seaton now back to 3rd.
Just interesting to notice that the Nissan crew look as though they're preparing themselves for a stop. I have no idea why that would be occurring.
There's certainly a bit of activity down with the Nissan boys.
Jim Richards comes up onto the pit straight and continues.
Freddie's
but
got the
Mark
cans on.
Skaife,
Yeah, it's Mark
Here he
Skaife.
comes.
it looks like he may be penalised for...
Stop
and
and
is
go
it just a stop-go?
Yeah, it's a stop-go penalty. No spanners coming out. The car just comes in, stops, and out again. And that would have had something to do with his tractor trip down the inside along the grass at the start. So Skaife joins the circuit just in front of Colin Bond.
I tell you what, they waited long enough to give him the penalty, though. Like, he's fought his way all the way up to past Glenn Seaton. And then, gee, I would have thought that penalty would have been on within the opening 3 laps. That's what happens in the States, anyway.
Not real happy, Mike.
I didn't think you'd be.
No, I can't understand. Like, it's a bit late making that decision. Also, like, okay, that's the start. It was up in the grass, 2 wheels in the grass. They said 4. The stewards here this weekend are sort of getting a bit over cautious, I think, with what they're doing. I'm not real happy with the decision at all, but like, I think we'll come back through the field and we see a good race now.
But I think he's got problems, correct, Dick?
Mate, it's got the mating call. You know?
No, I'm not going to touch that with a barge pole.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, the way it's going, it feels like a seat fly. Here's old LP, thinks he's doing real good.
Yeah.
Actually, I was quite surprised, Mike, that...
There he goes.
Yeah, well, I've got to let him go, the poor guy. I'm sort of kind of holding him up. He's the worst guy in the world to get past old LP.
Yeah, why's that?
He's got the widest car in the world.
Are you planning on making a pit stop,
But
Dick?
even the Sierra on one cylinder's got as much front as the Commodore.
Oh, come off it. This is his chance now, the back straight. Pulls to the outside quickly. Runs up alongside the door of Win Percy. Win's in no mood to settle and give him a run, but he does at the last moment. That was a good pass from Mark Skaife. Good pass.
Peter's having a good scrap here at the moment. It's Bondy.
Peter's in 9th place at the moment. Just ahead of him is John Bow, and ahead of him is Colin Bond.
Whoops. And that was close, Rocky. Whoa. Even the experience can be all arms and legs at times. Here's the scrap that I spoke about before with Tony Longhurst getting closer to the back of Win Percy's car. We've talked on many occasions this year about the consistency of the BMW. Neither Tony nor Alan happy that they have a soft enough race tyre for this track this weekend. And look at Tony probing up the inside and makes the space and quickly goes underneath. Win was pretty casual then in his defence, so I'd suggest that he's unhappy with the grip that his car's got and not really interested in putting up a fight, knowing that Tony's going to get him anyway. So a slightly dejected Win Percy, I'd suggest, judging by the way Tony was able to do that so quickly. Probably a little bit disappointed. Here's the top of Nissan GTR. That's it. I couldn't think of the name of the rotten thing. And Mark Skaife at the helm, chasing Glenn Seaton.
Keeping in mind that Skaife has had that stop-and-go penalty. He's come clawing his way back through the field. Looks to poke the nose down a little show and tell here with Glenn Seaton.
Mike, what you see from this view is how effective the Nissan is out of tight corners. Watch when it comes out of Penrite, which is the next right-hander, how much room Mark can play in where Cito can't. Look at this. Just, and then when he stomps on the gas here, it just goes broom, and off she goes. All the grip in the world, and a pretty casual pass into second place. They could not have calculated any finer. That's not encouraging sound, is it?
Here's some skid.
Colin Bond, that was, with the rear brakes all locked up. He's still having stride, and it's still going.
Laughing Jack.
It was about a 400-metre lose there. Bondi gathers it up. Bauer takes the position away from him. And I wonder what was going on there.
That started at the end of the back straight. That was like a 15-second lose for Bondi.
Coming up for the run down the back straight now, you should see Seaton switch to the inside. Here he goes.
See you later, Dick.
So, one lap put on Dick Johnson by young Glenn Seaton. That'll cap off a great 26th birthday today because he's going to get a slice of the rostrum again.
Well, we're halfway through the Australian Touring Car Championship, and that usually means that Bathurst is a fairly short time away. As far as Sierras are concerned, this will be the car to watch up there.
Checkered flag at the ready, and it'll be Jimmy Richards to come out of the last turn. Here he comes. And the 5th round at Winton goes to Jimmy Richards. Teammate Mark Scaife takes second, and 3rd place is in fact going to go to Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra, car number 30. 4th to Tony Longhurst in the BMW, car number 25.
Mark Scaife, I guess you're a pretty frustrated man, although it was a fabulous drive back through the field.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the hardest I've worked for a fair while, Crompo. It's off the line. You know, we were lucky enough to get down the grass there and not get punted out, and then to have to stop and go and come back through made us work pretty hard for our money.
Round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Here's the lineup. John Bowen, the Shell Sierra on pole, and Dickie Johnson starts alongside. Mark Scaife in the Nissan GTR out of 3. Tony Longhurst in the first of the BMWs from 4, and from 5 at 0.5. Good qualifying effort from Peter Brock. From 6, Alan Jones in the M3. From 7, Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From position 8, Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra. From 9, it's Win Percy in the Holden Commodore. 10, Larry Perkins in the Commodore. 22, the back of the field, Jimmy Richards. They're ready to go racing in round number 6. What a view Jimmy has. Right at the tail of the field. The Shell team, the front row, they're racing, and John Bower gets out smartly. Johnson picks up a quickie, and right up the inside comes Mark Scaife, not on the grass today as they head up Bitchapave Hill for the first time. Brilliant start from Win Percy back in the pack, but it's going to be crowded up the front as Johnny Bower has caught one out and one back from Dick Johnson. There's a little gap opening up on the inside, but Bower closes it off. Former national champion leads it, Dickie Johnson, but look at the Nissan GTR. All over the 2 Johnson cars, and a brilliant start from Tony Longhurst in the BMW. They come down to Sutton's for the first time.
Scaife was faced with a wall of Shell cars as he made his way to the top of the hill for the first time. He tried every which way to get around, but he dare not take to the grass after the last episode, so he finds himself in 3rd position from Longhurst, and then Peter Brock with newfound form, car 05 in 5th place, then Seaton, Percy and Jones.
Jones missing a gear coming out of the turn there, and Jimmy Richards also starting to sort them out at this stage. He's already passed about 5 cars as Queensland's Dick Johnson brings them up Bitchapave Hill. Teammate Johnny Bower, the pole sitter in the 18 Shell Sierra. Mark Scaife is one back behind them, and Richards position 13 after 1 lap. How good was that?
And we're now starting to see 4 cars really tighten up here in a battle, and the other thing is that Win Percy's dropped away from the group slightly, and Jim Richards is getting closer to him. I think within maybe 10-12 laps or so, with Richards in 9th, you're going to see another red, white and blue Nissan amongst this lot.
I think you're right. Down to the late corner under brakes. Scaife trying to get the car straight and get up the inside here of Johnny Bower. Can he do it? Bower's going to pull across. No, Scaife will get the run to the turn, so Mark Scaife parts the Shell team. It's Johnson leading, Scaife in 2nd, Bower in 3rd, right behind them Longhurst. And here's Jimmy Richards starting out of position 22, climbing the hill, going out after them, running 9th on the road at the moment and closing on Win Percy. Tony right on the tail now of Bower.
Mark Gibbs, incidentally, coasting and looks like he's heading back to the pits in the GIO Commodore.
And there is Longhurst through. You just saw it. Longhurst has broken the trail, gets by Johnny Bower. Can Brock do the same? Here's the Nissan race cam. We're riding with Jimmy Richards. And there, one of the Corollas getting the blow by as he moves up on the tail of the Peter Jackson Sierra with Glenn Seaton at the wheel. looking for 8th spot. And there he goes. Fantastic driving from Richards as they come down to the late corner. Now can Peter Brock get past Johnny Bower?
Finnegan in terrible trouble over at the top at Dunlop. Rescues himself and gets on with it again.
Here on the inside comes Alan Jones, but Rocky gets out of there pretty smartly. He knows exactly where Jones is. And in fact, getting pretty close to our race leader. There's Alan Jones going through on the inside of Peter Brock. So he's already joined one, and up at the front, Dick Johnson is under a bit of pressure from Mark Scaife. They're heading up Bitchapave Hill, just ahead of this group.
All that dust that you can see is from Bob Pearson's Product Commodore. He had to lose previous lap, and the dust still settling itself. Now Scaife's in a position to do something about Johnson. Coming out of the BMW.
To the late turn, tries to pull up on the inside. The two of them race side by side up to the next turn. Wheel-to-wheel stuff through the turn. Now watch the power of the Nissan. It gets up on the inside. Johnson almost got him pocketed in the slower car. Nothing between that. You saw the race lead taken from the Dunlop race cam. Mark Scaife takes the lead at the top of the hill. Johnson is back on the inside, but look who's there. Tony Longhurst splits the pair of them. The giant killer working away on the inside of Johnson, now on the tail of Mark Scaife as they work the back straight in, without doubt, the closest touring car race of season 91.
53.5 the last time through for this leading bunch.
And well, that looked like it was going to be a challenge for the moment on the inside. Let's see if Scaife can get away. Power comes into play with the four-wheel everything of the Nissan. Heading down to the late turn. Johnson hanging in with them. Now, can Scaife get away from Tony Longhurst? Down to the left-hander at Sutton's, Peter Brock, 05 car. Here comes Richards up on the inside. Now watch the acceleration here. Brock on the outside, Richards down the inside, and the race to the right-hander at the late. Brock on the brakes. Richards feinting the outside. Watch him cut back on the inside and try and get it straight for the run to the next turn. And that's exactly what he does. Takes Brock here and advances one more shot. Richards from the back of the field, position number 22. Now going out after Dick Johnson. A superb drive, this one. Oh, getting a tail out just a little bit on the exit to that. Longhurst.
This is a good indication of what a monstering this Nissan's giving us tyres. The car's starting to get more and more out of shape each time around, whereas Longhurst is keeping it dead straight.
The gap fairly constant then back to Alan Jones and then Jim Richards. They continue to set this pace. I rather doubt Richards can make it up onto the tail of Longhurst. And Longhurst is giving Mark Scaife a fearful time as they come across the line. This is where the Nissan gets away from heading up to the top of the hill.
Jones is only 4.6 seconds behind this battle now. I wouldn't mind betting that you're going to end up with a situation with 4 cars potentially battling for the lead. 2 Nissans, 2 BMWs. And I think the leader will be...
Here it is! Tony Longhurst down on the inside of Mark Scaife. Now, that will obviously get Scaife back wanting to take the lead.
Beautifully clean manoeuvre by Longhurst there. Cleaned up Scaife on the exit to Dunlop Loop. So, for the first time in a long time, a BMW leads a round of the Touring Car Championship.
If what you just said, Neil, is correct, and I have no doubt that it's going to be pretty close, Longhurst is able to get away just a little bit from Scaife. We would expect to see Jones haul in Scaife.
The stopwatch tells the story on the Nissan. Richards has stabilised at about 8.5 seconds.
Well, Jones has made another second in that last lap alone. There's the time that you saw for Scaife, 53.4. Team manager Fred Gibson.
Is AJ. He'd be loving this.
Yeah, after all the pressures of...
Oh, just locks up one. That's going to let Jim close up a little bit. Locking up one going into the left-hander at Sutton's, but he picks it up nicely.
He's only 5.9 seconds behind the leader and his teammate Tony Longhurst, and he probably just added a second to that. But that's the knife edge the BMW's on. You've got to keep the thing so close to the edge of its performance all the time that one little mistake and it can really hurt. Other cars, it's possible to sometimes recover a little bit easier than this car, which relies on being wound up like a top.
Well, he won't crack it for a smile, but I think he'd be delighted at the moment. That's Frank Gardner, team manager for Tony Longhurst. Frank, like the good old days, son.
It's a long time between drinks, isn't it, Mike?
Yes, I can't remember the last victory in the touring car round here for BMW, but you've put the package together nicely. And I'll tell you what, young Tony's driving a treat here today.
Well, Well, it's a long way to go still. If we win here, it's a bonus. I was hopeful of Lakeside next time around, but I suppose I'm like everybody else. I'm beginning to believe that the Nissans are invincible.
Dick Johnson in the pits. Car number 17, change of rubber for Johnson. Led the race early and did it superbly.
Well, it was an experiment for these guys. They were running a new type of tyre, so it was a worthwhile experiment, certainly.
Well, he heads back out as Jimmy Richards heads up Bitchapave Hill.
What's the difference between him and Little Miss Muffet?
What's that, Dick?
They both got turds in their way. Well, I got Nissans.
Yes, you steamed away from the field. It looked pretty good there, but it didn't take long, I guess, for the tyres to go off.
No, and we're about almost in the same boat again.
Truly.
Yep. Well, I'll see you later, Mark. He's just sort of kind of had a bit of a...
That was Scafie.
Yeah.
He just shot off.
Yep, he's obviously got the same problem as most of the cars out here at the moment. His tyres. And the guy behind me, he's been looking after him like you wouldn't believe.
Isn't he? He's done a pretty fair job, hasn't he?
He's done a great job.
All right, mate, I'll let you concentrate. Thanks for the chat.
No worries.
And for the comedy spot.
Thanks, pal.
Last lap out. Good idea also to see the last lap board in these time 50-minute races. They head to the top of Bitchapave Hill for the final time.
Oh, it's going to be close.
It is going to be close, but Longhurst in the 25 Benson and Hedges BMW is going to break the Nissan stranglehold on this year's Australian Touring Car Championship. There's the gap. You can see it as Longhurst comes into traffic. Back of the car just a touch skatey as he came through there. Coming up on the Ashby car up on the inside. No trouble here. Oh, he holds him up just momentarily. Now picks up a gear and tries to race down to the lake corner because Richards will close in this part of the circuit. 2 corners to go. Round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. David and Goliath. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be David's day here today. Last corner comes up. Round 6, and we're going to have a win for Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges BMW. Second is going to be Jimmy Richards, a superb effort from position number 22 in the field. Third, Mark Scaife. So Nissan second and third.
A new brand for 1991. Congratulations, Tony Longhurst. Tony, you, Alan Jones, Frank Gardner, the entire team have worked very hard for this, and finally a breakthrough.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
It's fabulous.
I drove a fantastic race. It was very, very difficult.
No, you didn't.
I think we should have the Nissans off the back of the grid from now on, but it's great.
And congratulations, Tony. And Mike Raymond, what's that done to the point score?
Well, let's have a look. Jimmy Richards on 110 to Mark Scaife's 92, Longhurst on 66, Alan Jones on 40 and Bow on 30. Round 7 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship before an absolutely packed crowd here today. Mark Scaife has pole position with a 108.98. Starting alongside teammate Jimmy Richards in the second Nissan. From 3, it's Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 4, 16, Win Percy in the Holden Racing Commodore. From 505, Peter Brock, the Mobil 1 Commodore. From 6, 18, John Bow, the Shell Sierra. From 7, 17, Dick Johnson, the team leader. And from 8, it's 11, Larry Perkins. From 9, Tony Longhurst, last start winner. From 10, car 8, Colin Bond. Mobil 1 race cam with Peter Brock. We're ready to go racing for the Galar at Malala. Lights turn to green, and it's the 2 Nissans off the line with Mark Scaife. Jimmy Richards getting away smartly. A brilliant start from Johnny Bow as they all start rubbing fenders getting into that first turn. Glenn Seaton snuck through there while they were doing that, and Win Percy got away to a good start. So too did Peter Brock. They come through there, down past the pits, the right-hander. And the 2 Nissans already at this stage of the race starting to open the gap as they go into the right-hander here. A change of cars for Mark Scaife. He has moved into the number 2 car. The car that Jimmy Richards has been campaigning, but by crikey, I'll tell you what, has he been fast here at Malala over the last couple of days.
What about that opening corner with Percy, Bow, Seaton, Brock, all sorts of people getting stuck into that battle there. 2 Nissans disappearing into the distance, but there were locked wheels and bits of plastic flying everywhere. And emerging in 3rd place, it would be Seaton, from Percy in 4th, then Brock, then John Bow, Dick Johnson. I think Bow was the loser in that scrape.
Yes, he was caught on the wrong side of the track for the turn. But Win Percy has moved up right on the tail here of Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Brocky is the next one, followed by Bow. Then right behind him, of course, is Johnson. Tony Longhurst, the next one on the queue, then Larry Perkins.
Certainly we saw the Nissan look very strong here last year on its debut, and they're looking equally as strong here this year, but the battle behind them should be very intense. Qualifying times suggest that these guys are very evenly matched, and we should be in for a great battle.
Did you notice through the left-hander coming onto the pit straight that time, when Percy's inside front came off the ground, it actually stopped. So there's a bit of brake bind going on there. There's a howling gale at Mallala today. We had some spots of rain about 15-20 minutes ago. Our commentary point's going to blow over before the 50 minutes is up. And it'll be interesting to see whether the weather conditions have any bearing on the outcome of this race.
As we go to the Dunlop race cam with Dickie Johnson, and he's under siege from Tony Longhurst. This is good stuff too.
Here's a good example of what 600 horsepower can do for you with 10-inch tyres. Dick's got all the power in the world, and he is getting pasted by Tony Longhurst.
Now Tony will try and snick him here on the inside as they come out, but Dick's horsepower comes into play.
This is the battle of the 7th and 8th position.
That's an example of what 600 horsepower can do for you as well. If you can actually get it to the road when you straighten up, it's quite reasonable.
Now watch this as Dick gets on the brakes. Inch by inch by inch by inch, Longhurst closes on him.
See the ground Longhurst makes under brakes there.
Now he'll give Dick a terrible time. They'll have trying to get Dick's tyres to go off and then waltz past him and go chasing the next one up on the queue.
You can hear that time as Dick was changing up through the gears, he was actually getting wheel spin in either, I don't know, it might have been 3rd or 4th. But that's how much horsepower these little cars have got. Look at Tony. I mean,
he's just having a fun time here today.
Between the Holdens is hotting up between Percy and Brock as Scaife just blazes off into the distance. Tony decides to try and go the long way. More than anything, he's trying to aggravate Dick into a mistake, and that won't be hard to do because Johnson's an experienced pro, doesn't make too many blunders.
Here he comes rushing at him again under brakes. Ducks down the inside, tries to just nibble away at the inside as they come out of the turn. All that horsepower back into play again as Johnson runs up to the right-hand sweeper. Says goodbye, Tony, just for the moment. Now you would think that Johnson is comfortably running away until he puts the brakes on again, and back comes the BMW.
Approaching the 20-minute mark now of round 7 of the Shell Australia Touring Car Championship, with Mark Scaife continuing to lead the pack. Car number 2, a comfortable margin over Jim Richards, and the gap increasing all the time. He'll be feeling pretty good about himself at the moment, Mark Scaife. Also contesting the Australian Drivers' Championship this year at Eastern Creek. The shutter coming back through the front wheels on the car. I wonder whether, in fact, Mark Scaife can hear us this afternoon. Are you there, Scaife?
I can hear you, Crombo. How you going, mate? All right?
All right. Now, Richo's paid me a lot of money to talk to you for about 15 or 20 minutes to hold you up. You don't mind, do you?
I do mind just a fraction, pal.
You're looking very good, Mark. Looking very comfortable.
Yeah, I suppose you can never disregard Richo. He never got to be one of the world's best touring car drivers and probably Australia's best by accident. So we just got to keep our head down, drive the car smooth and see what happens.
How are your tyres shaping up at the moment?
I've chosen a fairly soft tyre, Neil, so I've just got to drive the car pretty straight. I think they should be fine, mate, over.
3 hard stops on this track. What about brakes?
Well, the brakes on our car, if you remember here last year, the brakes are very, very bad. The brakes on the car here today are fantastic, over.
All right, Mark, I know you're busy. I'm tempted to keep talking for a few minutes, but you'll get me later, so I'll let you go.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye.
Over.
Over. Stop calling me over. Tony's done a terrific job. I mean, he's come from seemingly nowhere, and now he's starting to bother Peter Brock. I think before very long you'll find... Well, look, he goes straight up the inside. Tony Longhurst really moving in the BMW. Whammo. Mobile Race Cam shows the graphic action. Peter Brock that time goes back to first gear when he knew that another car was underneath him. And so now the BMW splits the 2 Holdens and Tony sets off after Win Percy. So that's 5th position for the BMW and counting.
So Larry's gone in for a fresh set of rubber. Tony the Giant Killer continues stalking Win Percy, car number 16, coming down to the entrance to the pit straight. Now Win hugging very tight through that turn. Now Longhurst getting right up behind him. Watch Longhurst close now as Win jumps on the brakes. Straight up on the inside.
The the initial stopping doesn't seem to be much different, does it? But then right when you get close to the corner, the BM's outstanding. The HRT Commodore looking pretty good. I think Wynn's given him a signal.
Yeah, he just did then.
The second HRT car's now been built, and it's actually here in the paddock at Mallala. Here goes Longhurst up the inside. Wynn's given him all the room in the world. It's an easier way than having to argue over it. I think Wynn recognised that the BM was going to be stronger at the end of the straight. So Tony Longhurst now moves up one more digit to fourth.
But here he goes again, just trying to make life unbearable for Glenn Seaton. And Glenn hasn't done anything wrong at all during this race. But all of a sudden, he now has to defend third.
Bear in mind that BMW territory overseas is certainly the 500 and 1,000k races.
Alan Jones was saying yesterday that when they get to Mount Panorama, they should save themselves about 4 minutes in the race. And look at this, giving him the squeeze.
This is great stuff. Longhurst now pulls to the outside, runs out of room though. There was no way Glenn had to give him the open road, so it's a case of wider back up again, wait for another lap, and I'll be back on even terms again.
What was going for Tony there, though, was that if he could have got round, he had the inside running for the next turn, which I'm sure was part of his thinking.
No doubt about that. And I just hope he can carry it through to Lakeside for the penultimate round of the championship. 3 weeks from today, 14th, as Tony Longhurst up on the inside. No way, says Glenn, you're going to fight a bit harder for that.
You talk to Frank Gardner or anyone around the BMW team, they will say that they're very much looking forward to Lakeside. I think they can knock the Nissans off this time.
Yeah. Oh, now it's getting tight.
Well, Percy's brought right into this battle.
Look at this, look at this. This is the David and Goliath stuff. Can he hold it on the inside? One wheel up on the curb. He does, and he could leave himself exposed to Percy.
Look at this.
Geez, Wynn got a good run out of that corner too.
Agro City.
Seaton moves across to cover his ground.
They all went on, simultaneously went on the attack and the defence. They had to have road maps to make it down.
Yeah, they threw the cards in the air and no one knew where they were going to fall. But that was a brilliant passing move from Tony Longhurst. He set that up. But now he's left Wynn Percy with the problem of Glenn Seaton. And they've had a couple of touches during the season.
What we're watching, I guess, is what the creators of Group A wanted all along. There's 3 different manufacturers and 3 very different types of cars all battling, and it's great stuff.
Look at this. Round the outside, what a move. He's got to hold it for the next one, though.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
this.
Fighting back.
He made the corner just a little wider for him.
I think they're closing up on to the back of Jim quite rapidly at the moment.
Scaife comes through this sweeper. Car number 2 down towards the chicane for the final time. The youngster with a ton of potential and could go on if he can display this form. Last corner coming up, round number 7 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship, the checkered flag, Nissan. That's his car. And of course, Mark Scaife is across the line for a win here today. Richards in the number 1 car will take second place. Here's Jimmy. And here's the giant killer, Tony Longhurst, from well back in the pack, is going to pick up third.
Congratulations, Mark Scaife. Wonderful performance, Mark. You were disappointed at Amaroo, but you must be very pleased with this.
Yeah, thanks, Crombo. I think it's a good birthday present for the car this weekend. If you remember, a year ago the car was fast enough but not reliable enough, and today it's been plenty good enough.
Jimmy Richards continues to lead the championship. Teammate Mark Scaife in a very solid second place. The rest of the teams, they have a lot of work to do. We're preparing for round number 8 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. What a stellar lineup today at the Lakeside course. Let's have a look through for you. Mark Scaife on pole position in the Nissan GTR. Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore from 2. Jim Richards in the Nissan from 3. Tony Longhurst from 4 in the first of the Bimmers. Alan Jones starts out at position number 5. From 6, it's Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Dick Johnson well back in the pack today from 7. John Bowe starts out of 8. From 9, it's Larry Perkins in the second of the Mobile Commodores. Alan Greitz back in action in the 16 Holden Racing Team Commodore. Well, there's your starting lineup. The big surprise, I guess, is the fact that Peter Brock, Neil Crompton, starts on the outside of the front row.
It's been a great performance from Peter and the Mobile team. They've got some new Bridgestone tyres this weekend, and it'll be very, very interesting to see whether Brock can match the pace of the Nissans. He's actually a little upset or unhappy at the moment about the position of Mark Scaife's car, I think, judging by the body language.
Well, yes, right on the line, not too far off the start of the penultimate round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship, the grand final, of course,
at Sydney's Oran Park Raceway on the 11th of August. Green flag is up at the tail of the field. It's clear. Watch Scaife get off the line. Racing, then they explode into life. Look at Richardson right in behind, and Johnson out on the grass. Trying to muscle his way past the BMWs. Bow goes the inside, Johnson the outside. Heading down to the carousel for the first time. You'll find it's Nissan 1-2, Brock third. Then the two Johnson cars, followed by the BMW. A brilliant start by Glenn Seaton, and Alan Jones pushing up here on the inside. They're off to a great start. Now they head down towards the Dunlop Bridge.
Great start again from the Nissans, as you'd expect. The four-wheel drive of both Mark Scaife and Jim Richards. Explosive off the line. The two Nissans heading off into the distance in terms of the gap back to the rest of the two-wheel drive brigade. Brock's tagging along a little bit, and then we've got this fascinating scrap with the two Shell cars and the BMW splitting them. Very, very busy at work. Third position. By far the best performance from the Modal team in 1991. It had their woes coming to terms with the VN Commodore this year. They've had some problems getting the appropriate setup with the car. They've now got some new tyres. They've got the new spec engine in the car this weekend. Brock's a happy chappy.
In terms of handling, Neil, how much more difficult is the Commodore to manhandle around here than the Nissans?
Well, the Commodore's probably a little bit heavier to steer. And look at the BMW, it's so nimble. I'll come back to that. Let's concentrate on this battle here, Gary, with the two Sierras and the BMW getting stuck right into it. John Bow. They tested up here about 3 or 4 weeks ago with some new Dunlop tyres with the Shell cars, and they tested very effectively, but they don't seem to have been able to translate the speed this weekend. Bow being attacked at the moment. Look at the BMW, it's such a strong package. Tony Longhurst underneath, using all the road, using the true assets and advantages of the car. It's great under brakes, and as soon as he saw a gap, bang, straight through, and his teammate Alan Jones is going to be right in this battle as well as they come back onto the main straight. Yes, you're right, the Commodore's probably a harder physical package to deal with over the course of 50 minutes.
Johnson sprinting in the draft of teammate John Bow at this stage. Notice Grice there, right behind them, starting to close up on the pack. This is where the real race is at the moment, with lots of cars trying to pass and repass. Once again into the carousel. Bow, Johnson, up on the inside of Johnson comes AJ.
This is the battle for fifth. Bow 5th, Johnson 6th, Jones 7th, Seaton 8th, then Perkins and Grice. Out front we've got Scaife from Richards, Brock in 3rd position, and Tony Longhurst having a lonely run as we look at Dunlop race cam, and there goes Alan Jones underneath, and that's the gap that he's been looking for.
Here's the scrap for 3rd, Peter Perfect. 05 Mobile Commodore, and right behind him the aggressive Tony Longhurst stalking after the two Nissans as they come down the front straight. And the bloke in the little yellow B&H 25 is going to keep Brocky busy. Izzy Watt straight down under brakes. Now Brocky will try and snitch him again on the inside. No chance on the exit of the turn because Longhurst is out right on the ripple. He is now advanced into 3rd.
It's cost him plenty in tyre wear though now.
Yeah, he nipped up the front right a little bit just heading in there as we take the speed cam shot. Interestingly, the gap from these two guys back to Alan Jones in the second B&H BMW is 9.6 seconds, and I think you'll find in the coming 5 to 10 laps that gap shrinks dramatically and Peter Brock will come under threat from the other BM. Cars 16 and 17, Alan Grice and Dick Johnson. They were battling for 7th and 8th positions, as Gary mentioned a few minutes ago, and they've got all out of shape and disappeared off into the carousel, and a lot of steam coming out from under the bonnet of the Johnson car. Let's take a look at a replay and see whether we can get an idea of what happened here. Oh, Grice making contact with the left rear of Johnson's car, and enough to spin him around. Well, that just leaves John Bow now to fly the Shell flag in this battle. And haven't the cars evaporated out of that scrap now?
They certainly have. Bow trying to contain Glenn Seaton. The two of them have been together for, what about the last 6 or 7 laps? Seaton was involved with challenging Johnson at the same time. So the title of the hot running forward man. Oh, Bowie's gone. There she is, the full 360 right across the racetrack. They're able to miss Larry Perkins, who came through. And what's the gap back to Longhurst?
3.5 seconds on the last lap. I'll recheck it for you. 3.09. He's made half a second in the last lap, so that tells the story. The Nissans are out to low 54s, high 53s, and the BMW is still doing 53.5. Well, but that might also not work in Tony Longhurst's favour at the end of the day, because he might literally run out of rubber, and it's not that cool. I know it's cool in various parts of Australia at the moment. We've got a 20-degree day here at Lakeside, and that'll be giving the tyres some hard work.
Dick Johnson back into the pits, but I believe has put it behind the wall. Let's go down to our man in the pits, Mark Osler. What's the latest, Mark?
Mike, the story in the pits is we expected Johnson to come in for a stop for tyres. He just drove straight past his pit bay and put the car back in the garage. The reason was the radiator was damaged in that collision with Grice, so another DNF for the Johnson team.
And the last time through, Scaife's lap was a 54.42, so they're actually losing more speed, where the BMW is maintaining its speed in the high 53s.
Well, Jim Richards, ham in the sandwich here, has got a real dilemma on his hands. He really wants to get past his teammate, and
Look at
is about
this.
to do so.
There he goes, Richards straight through on the inside of Scaife and hangs him out to dry just a little. But then again, it's time for the attack of the 25 B&H.
No problem with Scaife's car.
Yep.
He left a lot of room through Hungary Corner, which surprised me, and I thought at the time that was a little strange because there are no team orders between the two Nissan drivers, so Scaife with a problem. That would account for the reason why he suddenly lost the ground that he'd made on Richards early in the event. So it becomes a two-horse race at the front of the pack, and Longhurst is on the charge. Let's go down to the pits and see what's happening here with Fred Gibson and the team. Mark Osler down there, what can you see?
Well, Mark Scaife in some sort of tyre trouble. They're changing all 4 tyres. I was talking to Fred Gibson earlier in the day. They're running the same compound they ran here in round 4 in April, but the pace is up about half a second, so maybe this is just taking the toll on these tyres.
Well, a pretty quick stop just the same.
Mark had a spin, which many people may have seen on 7 National News last night, and damaged the tyres. As many viewers would be aware, the touring car teams have to choose the 4 tyres that they want to both qualify on and race on, and it's 4 tyres that are marked and then you're stuck with. Oh, look at Longhurst here. He's in position for a pounce, goes round the outside, an amazing manoeuvre from Longhurst, and he takes the lead of round 8. Fabulous bit of driving from Longhurst.
Good, brave stuff around the outside. Crowd really appreciated that move from their local boy, Tony Longhurst.
Richards to the pits, is it? Yes, Richards in. Run out of rubber.
Unbelievable.
And look, he's signalling to the pits. What's all that about?
I'll be in next lap, probably.
He was signalling that time for sure. And are they all playing pit stop games?
Oh.
And off goes one of the Shell Sierras yet again. And it's got to be John Bauer, because we know that Johnson's in the pits. That's the second time round for John today. It's been a tough weekend for the Shell team.
The car we spotted in the pits as Jim Richards went in was Peter Brock in 0.5. He's back out again in 9th place, and Jim Richards rejoined the race in 11th place.
I've got Longhurst leading Jones by 11.6 seconds at last count, and then Mark Scaife in 3rd, followed by Jim Richards. In 5th place we have Glenn Seaton. Behind him in 6th it's Colin Bond. 7th is Peter Brock, and behind Brocky it's Alan Grice in car number 16.
We go with Nissan Race Cam into the cockpit of Mark Scaife's GTR, and he's got some problem with the rev counter.
The car sounds and looks all right, but maybe we'll have a look at his lap time next time through and see what's happening.
Got a throttle problem, so he's communicated to his pit. He's got it full on. I think that's the problem.
Still putting in a quite... Yes, there's the wave from Mark, and Jim goes through. He's still putting in useful lap times given the state of the engine, and Richo just acknowledges Mark's courtesy. That'll be a bit of disappointment for Mark Scaife, who's really been the pace here all week.
Frank Gary Wilkinson, what's the big difference for you between this meeting and the last one here at Lakeside?
About 400 test laps.
Hard work.
Yeah, lots of hard work. You get very lucky then.
Well, they say you make your own luck in racing, Frank. I hope it all pans out for you and you come up with that 1-2.
Be very nice, yeah. It'd be a real bonus. Thank you very much.
Tony lines it up for the checkered flag.
Coming out of the last corner, a great 1-2 here at Lakeside today for Team BMW. The Nissans back to 3rd and 4th, and Longhurst, the Queenslander, takes victory on home terrain. Second spot, of course, will go to Alan Jones, teammate in car number 20, the second of the Bimmers. Third goes to Jimmy Richards, fourth to Mark Scaife, and fifth to Glenn Seaton.
Great performance from Tony Longhurst. A 1-2 for the team. You must be ecstatic.
No, just over the moon, Neil. It's been a very big day for me in more ways than one.
Tony, where to from here?
Oran Park. Naturally, we're very happy with our result here, but we're going to work hard on the cars, and perhaps we can knock the Nissans off at Oran Park in 3 weeks' time.
Well, the series is basically resolved. Jim Richards is champion for year 1991, but boy, do we have a race here today. Mark Scaife, the second Nissan team driver, has pole position, but the man who will split the Nissan duo is Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. As I said to you, Mark Scaife has pole position of 1:10.60. Absolutely stunning qualifying effort from Peter Brock. He'll share the front row. From 3, it's the national champion Jim Richards in the Nissan. From 4, John Bowe in the first of the Shell Sierras. From 5.25, Tony Longhurst, the Benson and Hedges BMW. From 6.11, Larry Perkins, the Mobile Commodore. From 7.20, Alan Jones, the second of the Bimmers. From 8, number 30, Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 9.4, Mark Gibbs, the GIO Nissan. From 10, long way back, 16, Win Percy, the Holden Racing Team Commodore. Colin Bond starts out of position number 11. Dick Johnson out of position number 12. Steve Reed from 13. From 14, it's Terry Finnegan in the Commodore. 15, Peter Dillman in the BMW. From position number 16, John Cotter. 17 is John Vernon. From 18, David Thomas in the Corolla. From 19, Dennis Rogers. And from 20, Mike Conway. Just about set for the start. Mark Scaife and Brocky head-to-head in the grand final at Oran Park Raceway. And we're about 3 seconds away from the start. Beautiful start. Scaife out, gone. Right alongside of him goes Jimmy Richards, who catches Brock. John Bowe makes a good start down the outside, and Mark Gibbs also away quickly in the GIO Nissan. But as they come down into the first turn, you'll notice it's John Bowe, Smitherman, Brocky under brakes, right behind Jimmy Richards, fighting his way past Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Sierra. Good start from Larry Perkins and the number 11 Mobile Commodore, and they head down to the right-hander.
Terrific start, as you'd expect from Mark Scaife and the Nissan. John Bowe came out very quickly, though, and I was a bit surprised that Peter Brock sat there for a while. Action back in the pack as they sort themselves out. There's Perkins, Win Percy, both the BMWs. And you can expect the BMWs to come on strong as this race unfolds, judging by the way they performed in qualifying yesterday.
In fact, if anyone went backwards in that first couple of corners, it was probably Mark Gibbs. He got off to a brilliant start, but he's been gobbled up by the field. Brocky sat there in absolute wheel spin at the starting line, but he's closed up right behind Jimmy Richards as Scaife disappears downhill. Here's Richards coming down on the inside of John Bowe. Bowe is caught one out and one back, and Brock noses the Commodore down the inside as we take Mobile Race Cam, and here's Brocky. And swinging to the inside goes John Bowe as they work away at Richards and the number 1 Nissan down to the left-hander. Mark Scaife getting away as Richards lines up Bowe. Can't do it. Beautiful pictures from our Mobile Race Cam into the left-hander.
Peter Brock putting a lot of pressure on Jim Richards, and Richards has looked down the inside of Bowe. Bowe's putting on a great show here, but as we've seen before, 10 laps in the Sierra at this sort of pace is just about enough for the rear tyres. So hopefully Bowe can keep it up as long as he can. Glenn Seaton slotting in there behind Brock as well. First 9 cars covered by less than a second in qualifying, so we should be in for a good show for the first few laps at least.
A year where we came to Oran Park 12 months ago, we had 4 drivers in the running for the championship going to the wire. Today, the championship resolved. That's already gone to Jimmy Richards, thanks to the race at Lakeside. But look at this action with Johnny Bowe doing a good job for the Shell Racing team, Dick Johnson's team, trying to fend off Jimmy Richards. Richards all over him, and Bowe is doing a bit of defensive stuff, trying to do the right thing. Brocky coming down right on the tail of Jimmy Richards, under brakes. Mobile Race Cam tells the story. The exit to the turn. Richards trying to get himself down the inside of Johnny Bowe. Bowe almost scrapes the tail of the car on the wall as they finish one more lap.
Brocky inside this time, and I'm surprised that Jim's not able to maintain that gap down the straight. Oh, someone out in the dirt in a big way.
I don't know whether let's swing around and see who we've got.
Oh,
it's Win Percy. Blimey, Charlie.
Front left of the car looked pretty knocked around then.
Thanks, Wit.
Bowe was saying he reckons the Sierra is just about up to its use-by date. 5 years in international competition, the things aren't getting any faster, so he's having to work very, very hard here. See the car sliding all over the track.
Oh.
Brock has a look down the inside, more than a look.
He's taken him. Thank you, John.
And
rocks
he's
away, and Richards has a look up the inside as well. Look at Bow get the hammer down. The Sierra's still a very quick thing in a straight line. Richards pulls out wide and have a look, but he's not going to get him here.
The dust still there from the Percy runoff, and they'd all be skating a bit there on the rubble as they make it into the left-hander beneath the Yokohama Bridge. Glenn Seaton doing a good job. He's up fairly close to them in the Peter Jackson Sierra.
Look at Richards having a look down the outside of Bow. He moves across. There's a bit of panel crunching going on there. Nothing in between it. Richards gets it back onto the island. Bow still maintains his position. Seaton tucks onto the back of Richards. There's Percy into the pits. Tyre change.
It's up the front where you'll need to see what's happening because it's been pretty belted around, I think.
Mandatory tyre change there. And Richards down the inside of Bow.
Yeah, that was a nice clean pass from Jimmy Richards' car. Not too good. There's one that's even worse. Colin Bond's Celtic Sierra. It's almost a repeat of last year.
Brock skating through the left-handed down at Goodyear. Now the two of them run side by side. Mobile race cam shows us the action. There's Richo on the inside. Brock grabs top gear right at the bottom. Jim's in position. And, oh, look at all that glass and garbage down there.
Oran Park drag race falls Nissan's way.
In the meantime, the number 2 Nissan GTR, Mark Scaife, the man that just about everyone was tipping in the closing rounds of the championship to become title holder for 91. But unfortunately, his luck went a little sour. Richards came on at Lakeside, and that basically locked up the title for Jimmy Richards going into today's grand final.
Oh, and Jim Richards in trouble.
So the number 1 car, the national champ Jim Richards, has pulled off, I think, on the entrance there to the short track.
Fred Gibson showing a bit of concern. And why not? A bit of smoke pouring from the under the bonnet of the Nissan. Richards out of the car.
Oh, some locking up of brakes from John Bow. He almost goes straight ahead and does.
I think he, in fact, had a deflating right front that time.
So that might well see Bow to the pits for a tyre change. Glenn Seaton is able to hose off Alan Jones down the straight. But from this point of the track, well, they all start to work under brakes. Watch Alan Jones close up on Glenn Seaton. Out of action, stepping out of the car is John Bow, who has had an awful day. Thanks, John. Things will get better.
I don't know that my call was right there. I said there might have been a problem with the tyre. I think it's more like an under-bonnet problem for the JB car.
We take mobile race cameras down the inside and see you late, Pete.
Been watching Brock's Mobile Commodore the last few laps. There seems to be puffs of smoke trailing from the rear corner of the car, so he may have a problem there. But either way, there's no way he would have held out Alan Jones around here in a BMW M3. They're dynamite on this circuit.
There's Mark Scaife getting through there. And this is Longhurst trying to close that gap all the time to Mark Scaife. Johnson gives him racing room. And Richards, of course, parked by the road here today.
Well, both Scaife and Longhurst in.
Surprise, surprise. And they're only paying attention to one corner, so maybe a deflating tyre there. A bit of bad luck. He might probably picked up a bit of the debris on the track. The track's certainly dirty today. That looks like all it was. If you look under the car, he maybe had an excursion off the track, but that'll drop him way down the order.
Maybe the one that got away, Frank.
Actually, Gibbs is surprisingly slow compared to the two Works cars. I thought he might have been a bit closer, in all honesty, this weekend to Richards and Scaife, but I guess it'll take a bit of time to get used to the car.
It's a good move as he gets past Brocky. Mark Scaife comes down through the gears. Crowd giving him a tremendous cheer as he exits Goodyear turn. Checkered flag at the ready. The 91 Shell Australian Touring Car Championship Grand Final goes to Mark Scaife. Nose to tail as they come diving down the hill for the final time. The battle for second and third. Last corner, that's going to be Alan Jones to pick up second here today. Tony Longhurst will take third, and Glenn Seaton will round off the 4 in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra.
I think Tom Smith from the Shell Company are ready to put the championship sash around you.
a special thanks again to Fred and the boys and Mark for doing such a great job in the testing of the car early in the week. Thank you.